better than mine. Hello, hello, friends. I know that everybody's looking for some online income outside of therapy, and Tamara and I basically talk about that all the time. So we thought we would talk about it together and share it with you. And we wrote some questions to kind of get us started, but this is going to be very informal and a casual conversation, and us just riffing on what it's like to have multi six-figure online businesses and how you might be able to get there too. So, Tamara.
Thanks so much
eh,
for having me. Thanks for inviting me to talk about like my favorite topic, basically.
Yeah, Tamara and I just vox constantly about what do you think about this? What about this idea? So we're going to just share some of that with you guys because it could be helpful. We'll give you a more detailed introduction to us later, but I know you're really just here for the juice. So we'll start squeezing. What is it about your business right now, Tamara, that you love the most? Like, what about the setup do you love the most?
So this is probably not the most exciting start as a topic. And I am a bit of a geek about some of the techie stuff and the spreadsheets, but my favorite thing that I was showing you earlier is my new Airtable customer sales product hub, which is a huge database of everything I've ever sold in the last, 4 or 5 years of business, and who I sold it to and how I sold it, how much I sold it for, and everything's projected. And so I can see what has been profitable and what to put my efforts into and what to expect over the coming year. And that is definitely my favorite thing in my business at the moment.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I'm not as techie as you, but it's a big value of mine that we can help people in a million different ways. So we might as well be helping people in ways that are profitable. And there's no
Mm.
way to know if something's profitable if you don't have a good idea, sorry about the dog, about not only how much you're making, but how much time a thing has taken you to do the damn thing, which you also have expertise in because you track your time.
Yeah, well, so I'm not doing it at the moment, but I did do it for a whole year. I tracked everything I did and it gave me really good information. So I'm really invested in making data-driven decisions. And because there are so many things that we can do to create and to help people and to support people, but I also want to make sure that I'm investing my time and my creativity and my everything in a way that is going to be, constructive. And so I tracked all my time over all of my projects last year so that I could figure out how many hours everything took and how much went into everything. And it was a really interesting experiment. And I guess this database is one of the products of that, was that I saw that I really didn't have any idea of what recurring revenue was coming up. And I was just randomly wandering the streets going, I have an idea, I'll try that. I have an idea, I'll try that, and not making decisions about whether I had enough time for something, and the resources in order to do it. So what about you? Like, when you get an idea for something, how do you make a decision? Because I remember you saying that to me. You need to have some sort of system to figure out whether this is going to be something you enjoy doing, whether it's going to be profitable, whether it's your next project. So how do you do that?
Well, I think probably for both of us, one of our strengths is that we are good at coming up with ideas. And I feel like that comes largely because we're really in touch with our audience. We have close relationships with all the people who follow us, and we know what they want and what they need. And so it's easy to come up with ideas. It's easy to actually implement the idea, turn it into a course or, whatever it happens to be. It's most difficult, I think, to do the strategy involved in figuring out which one of these ideas is going to be the most valuable for the people that I'm creating it for in the way that's most valuable for them, and is going to be not just most profitable in terms of income, but for me, what's super important is that I have a lot of time. So how can I make sure that this is making enough money for the time that I'm putting into it? And that tends to be how I pick between the millions of different opportunities that there are out there for making income outside of therapy or whatever job somebody happens to be. That's like you and I did this actually as we were talking about the mastermind that we're creating. We just sat down with the numbers like, all right, so if we knew we wanted it to look like this and this is what people need, how many people would we need to have in there to make it make sense for us financially? Okay, well, that's going to help us figure out the rest of the offer.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say that we did get to that, but now that you're speaking, I'm sort of thinking like, but what did we start with? We started with like, well, what do we love doing? What do we want to put in the offer? We did start with that, but then I guess that this information is it's like you need it to back up the idea, the creativity, the like, I want to do voxer office hours and I want to do asset reviews and I want to do this and I want to give people that and this is how many people I want to. And then we kind of need that information and I mean, maybe you don't need it, but I think it is helpful. It's encouraging apart from anything else.
No joke. There's somebody that talked, I wish I could give credit to the person who came up with this, but they say like in the beginning of your job, career, whatever, you say yes to lots of opportunities because you don't have access to that many. And then as you grow in your skill set and your expertise, the number of opportunities grow. And so everything that you say yes to means a no somewhere else. So when I'm thinking of an idea or an offer, I have to be super excited about it. It has to be a hell yes, as this author would say, because otherwise I'm saying yes to something that's going to make me say no to a lot of other things. And one of those other things might have been something that really got me excited or got me all lit up. And you and I have even talked about, as we talked about our offer to some of our colleagues and friends, and they're like, well, maybe it could be like this. I think both of us were like, nope, it wouldn't light us up like that. That's not going to be how it goes. So if you have an offer that lights you up, your audience doesn't love it, you might need a different audience for that offer.
Well, I think that's really useful information because, we were like, nope, it is what it is. Like the offer is, this is how it's growing. This is how we're kind of creating it. I guess there's some flexibility, isn't there? But it's kind of interesting, that point of like, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And do you remember when you started saying no to opportunities? Because I remember that I used to say yes to everything, did loads of things that I didn't want to do, did presentations, did free this, did whatever, going here, doing, whatever it was. I used to do everything. And I do hardly any of that now. So do you remember when you stopped?
I do. I remember vividly. I think it happens there's a stage in each part of your life. So I remember I said yes to everything while I was moving up the chain in university counseling centers. I mean, everything. And I'd be like, well, that could help me because it could help me learn to do this, which will help me do that. So I said yes all the time. And then when I announced to them that I was leaving and I was going to start an online therapy practice, and I closed the door, I walked into the online therapy practice world, and suddenly everybody had an idea about how I should be making money online. I mean, it was like flooding me. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to make money online by doing online therapy. And that's funny. Gosh, I forgot about this. What helped me to know what to say no to is I had these almost like bumpers on a bowling alley of, I know where I'm trying to go here. I'm trying to make sure that I have a lot of location freedom. So I knew I had to be online and I wanted a lot of time freedom. So I knew that ultimately online therapy wasn't going to be enough because I was tied to a one-to-one model and I had to have my butt in the seat at the appointment time. I knew I needed something that I didn't have to be in my seat for appointment times. And so as opportunities came up, I was like, is that within the bumper rails of my little bowling alley lane here? And if not, then it's a no, unless it moves me closer to those things. And then it's a maybe. Yeah, gosh, that's funny to think about. And even recently, I get asked to do stuff in the online therapy world or the side hustle world, like host retreats. Patrick Cassell asked me if I wanted to host a retreat with him. And it's just not in my life, like my dream lifestyle. And I'm already being able to make enough money doing what I'm doing. So I don't need to say yes to something that's not in my dream lifestyle
Mm.
because I'm already on the path. Whereas 4 years ago, I probably would have been like, heck yeah, I'll come to that retreat because I needed help getting to where I am right now. What about you?
I think it's the same as that bumpers thing. It's like the road gets narrower and I just have to pay attention to the edges of my comfort zone, you know? So it's not like I say no to everything, but I'm very, very intentional, and I really know like when something doesn't feel good. So there's a conference that I get asked to speak at in London, and I've said no for a long time, like not in a mean way, just I like didn't want to go to a conference for a long time. And then this year I was asked, and I kind of thought, well, it'd be nice to see people actually. And I generally I don't like conferences. I don't like really big, like hundreds of people, and I find it really exhausting, and it's, get really self-conscious and anxious and stuff like that. But I just kind of thought, well, it's only half an hour. I can talk about this particular topic about international therapy practice in my sleep. It'll be fun. Maybe I can make it more fun. How can I make it more fun for me? Maybe I could like buy a get all the seats at a table and take all my poddies, and like all these kind of exactly. And like, so I was kind of thinking like, okay, well, so how can I make it work for me? So I do think that that's come into it. It's not so much just yes or no. It's like, even when I think, well, that's a possibility, I sort of think, well, how can I make that work better for what's comfortable for me? Whereas before I would just quite often, for the first few years, I would just quite often just kind of do whatever was asked of me without really thinking about that.
Yeah.
And it's tough at the beginning. I just wanted like to kind of learn stuff and try stuff, and I didn't really know if I didn't like it.
Well, and I think that that has to be the beginning. I see a lot of
Hmm.
people who think like, I'm not going to do anything until I can do it right. And I need to know what the checklist is.
Yeah.
And, entrepreneurship isn't like that. You are experimenting. You don't know if you're going to like teaching something as a course or a workshop, or if you're going to prefer it more as an intensive or whatever the heck it happens to be. You don't know until you try it out or at least explore it. And you don't know really what kind of content's going to land with your people until you've tried it out a few times and you have people to try it out with. So
For
it does feel
sure.
like a lot of experimentation through saying yes. And then as you learn, I like how you said that, like the road gets more and more narrow and you can be more selective because you have the information that you need.
Yeah, I love that idea about experimentation. I think, I've kind of picked that up, I guess, in the last year or so, about kind of being more, I sort of describe myself as an online business enthusiast, right? Sort of being more enthusiastic and playful and like enjoying and trying things.
Mm.
And trying new stuff, and so I like that idea about experimenting. We don't have to do things the way that they've been done before, or even the way that we've done them before, or how someone else has done them um before. And there's loads of stuff that I think I used to call mistakes, and I don't know that I do really anymore. I don't know. What about, do you kind of look back on something that you've done as a mistake? Like, have you ever sold something and thought, oh no, that went wrong? Uh-oh. What was I
Well,
thinking?
now that you ask, well, I think I probably feel like you do that it was a very helpful learning opportunity, and I don't mean that in a facetious way. Um, So there was a time when I was running the online therapist group. At some point, we should introduce ourselves and what we do soon.
Oh yeah.
I was running the online therapist group, and I had built step by step, so teaching people how to build an online therapy practice. And people kept asking me to teach them how to market, and I just didn't feel competent enough or ready enough. I sort of built it into this thing in my head that it needed to be this really big expert deal. But I also knew that I needed to do it at some point. And so the way that I tricked my brain out of perfectionism was I said, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll offer you 52 weeks. This is just insanity, the amount of content I created. I will offer you 52 weeks of micro lessons in marketing and you'll pay, it was something ridiculous, like $13 a month or something. And really, in my mind, I thought that perhaps a lot of people would buy it. And so it would be a low ticket offer that would sell a lot. And so it would be, I'd make money that way. But mostly it was just making myself be accountable for doing the work I needed to do to learn how to make sure I was competent at marketing and that what worked for me would work for other people, and to create the dang content and to do the research. So the win was I did create the content. It did make me do the research. It did make me test the methods of marketing that had worked for me to make sure it worked for other people. I wouldn't change it. But if I were coaching someone else, I would probably be like, do you really need to do this, baby? Could you just maybe make the actual course? Could you build a sales page for the actual course? Could you sell it at an actual price point? Because the con was, number one, it wasn't super profitable. Obviously, I had to create way more content than I could get paid for. But number two, because it was such a low ticket offer, it attracted a lot of people who aren't used to paying for high ticket things. And so the amount of customer service requests that I got was higher than any of my other offers, my multi-$1,000 offers. To this day, that I called it the marketing minis. That offer cost me more hours in customer service related stuff than all of my other offers combined at much higher price points. So
that's so interesting.
That was the learning.
At the end of that year, did you have 52 micro lessons in a course format?
Legit lessons. They
legit
did not,
lessons.
They
do you
were
sell
micro.
that evergreen? Do you sell that now evergreen? Because that's 52 lessons that people could just buy self-study.
No, I pulled it down and people have access who bought it. They still have access, but I felt like maybe I have another regret. I took what I learned and organized it in a better way, because that was the other piece. I was like, well, I don't have to be super organized if I'm doing 52 micro lessons. I'll just do whatever my brain is like in the zone to do. So I took that content, I reworked it, created the marketing intensive, expanded on it. And, now I sell that for a couple $1,000s or however much the price point is right now. So it is content that's being used. It's just not being used in that same format.
But they're recorded videos. They're recorded videos that you're not using.
Well, they're not. Most of them are not videos. So I didn't have to put on makeup either. Whereas the marketing intensive is like live teaching or pre-recorded teaching. This is just written out content. Most of it's just, yeah. You're like, should we slide into coaching? Do you want to tell me what I should do?
Like, how can we sell this? Like, why isn't that on your website? Why aren't you selling it for 127? Like 150.
Well, I mean, like strategically, let's talk about that. If I were to sell it at 127, then it would undermine my more expensive offer of the intensive.
Do you think it would? Because I sort of think, well, that would get people kind of into a space where they see how much you deliver. They would see your, like, the way that you think about things, the way that you organize things, your style. And then you could follow up with hey, do you want to come and work with me live on this? I'll give you the 150 off the $2,000 price point.
Yeah, that's not bad thinking there. I think that the result of the marketing minis for most people would be that they've learned things here and there that they implemented, but there's not a coherent do this, and do this in this order, like they would get in the marketing intensive. So it'd almost be like I'd have to sell it as a scatter shot of interesting tidbits about marketing, and you can kind of piece it together, hope for the best.
Kind of a bonus or something, maybe a downsell.
That would be super cool as a bonus. Haha, I like it. Ooh, it could totally work as a bonus because I
like it as I just like it as like a downsell. You could downsell to like We were just talking about someone else's launch. You could downsell to a $37 a month and drip the content.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. You're not feeling like you need a whole robust, walk course. You just want some tips and tricks about marketing all in one place, organized by type. That's a really interesting idea.
I think there's so much stuff like that. I really like when there's so many different ways of doing it, but you can kind of feel like, sometimes you might have loads of content, you might have loads of stuff, but actually it would affect the integrity of the other thing that you're selling. So maybe it's a bonus, or maybe it's a downsell, or maybe it's nothing. Like maybe it's just there for later, just in case, and maybe it was just that 1 year of accountability so that you learned all that stuff. But I'm always like, it's there. How can you how can you put it there? But also, like, if you don't, I think I've got lots of things sitting on my website, but I don't have, some of them don't have funnels, and people don't just walk past. It's not a shopping center, no one's like in the mall kind of going like, hey, who wants to learn about clinical wills? Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not just wandering past. I got to send them there.
Do you not think you're getting enough like organic hits from SEO that people aren't landing there like a shopping mall and being like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff that I could get?
I'm sure I could get more. There's loads of things that I could do. There's loads of stuff, but I sort of just, it's not that I'm not doing them. It's that I'm always in a process around it. I'm always working on like this aspect or that aspect, but I'm sure I could do better with my SEO. I'm sure I could do better with sort of funnel strategy. I guess I'm working on that.
This is my year for funnel strategy. That is my big goal on behind the scenes. Okay, so we've talked so much. I want people to know what the heck we're doing in case they're brand new to us. Can you share and we'll go into a deep dive in another one, but maybe like share your journey from private practice therapist to where you are now, the choices you made, why you made them, where your business is right now?
Who knows? Who knows? I started a private practice, I want to say 2011. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to France. And so I opened a practice. So I kept my clients, I worked on the telephone, and then I opened a practice in France. Then I moved around a bit. I took some time off while I had a child. And then when I came back, I kind of just felt really disconnected. And so I joined the online therapist group, and then I learned everything that I know about online therapy from Amber Lyda, and everything about my private practice. And I mean, I don't want it to turn into too much of like a fan fest.
It's a promo. You guys didn't know, but this is all promoting the online therapist group.
Just in case. And so anyway, I started my private practice, really 0 to 12 client, or one client at the beginning to 12 clients in like 3 months. And that's where I wanted to be. And we got my fee up, and we worked on all that kind of stuff. And I started, so at the same time, I rewrote all my paperwork, and then someone said they wanted to buy it from me. And so then I made a shop to sell my paperwork templates. I got a lawyer. I was like, oh, I saw, that someone did that. Someone sold their paperwork. They got a lawyer in the States, and I was in the UK, and I was like, I'm going to do it in the UK. And then it only occurred to me afterwards that I was trying to sell something that wasn't needed, because people in the UK, you don't need a lawyer to look over your paperwork. Most people don't even have paperwork. Most people don't even have therapy contracts in the UK. So, so I sort of created something that was not needed, right?
But it did fit in your value system, because you really wanted much better care for clients in the UK than you felt like they might be getting without stuff in place.
For sure. I'm really proud of my paperwork, and I sell much more of it now than I ever have before, and accidentally, because again, I don't have any funnels set up and I don't do any promo, but so people do come across that shop. And so I have my paperwork template show up. And then I can't remember what I did next. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, I did Learn to Love Online Therapy, which was an experiential group program. So for people who are really not techie and really feel not confident, we would like practice together. And so I built a whole program around that. It was really fun. You know, and then I sort of started doing workshops and, you know, creating courses and just trying different things. I've got kind of a coaching membership group program / type hybrid thing, a mastermind, what else? I did a bundle last year. One of my favorite moments in business in the world was telling you about the bundle and your face just being like, no, what? and how that changed, you know. And yeah, so now I sort of, you know, I usually sort of call myself like a private practice and online business enthusiast. That's how I would describe myself. I don't really like the idea of being a coach or a mentor or anything like that. Just want to work with people and support them and share the things that I learn. And hopefully give them resources and help them save time.
Yeah, you are a natural helper, an enthusiastic helper. Y'all, when Tamara told me about the bundle idea, which if you don't know, a bundle is when an online business enthusiast decides that she is going to herd a bunch of other entrepreneurs into the level of difficulty on this. If you play video games, it's like, you know, whatever the top of the video games is, that's how hard this is to manage. So you get and vet a bunch of contributors who are going to create something or contribute something that they've already created to this conglomerate, you know, and then you have the price point very low. So from an accessibility point of view, somebody can pay $100 and they're accessing $6,000 or something wild of amazing resources all around one topic. And so it's amazing for the customers. They're just getting so much for their money. And then there's a profit split between Tamara, who's created the thing, and then all of the people who are contributing to the thing. The level of difficulty. And I'd never heard of anybody doing a bundle before, whereas you had. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Tamara, like you would have to sell so many of these and it's going to be so much work. And she did it and she crushed it. Highly profitable, highly satisfied contributors and people who bought it, clients, consumers, whatever the heck they're called. I mean, she just knocked it out of the park. And I'm still just in awe of your ability to organize that level of chaos. That was masterpiece online business ownership.
Thank you. I had lots of team support, lots of coaching support from very special coaches, bundle coaches and entrepreneurial coaches. And I had a lot of support and I really like bundle coaching now. Like I'm really enjoying that. And it's fun kind of knowing a little bit about, you know, bundling, but also just trying new stuff, right? And I remember when you started, because I think, you know, I came across you when you first were selling step by step. I think maybe I just missed the first time you sold it. I'm not sure, but I sort of remember around, you know, the first couple of times that you sold it. And I remember when you started like structuring things differently, you started creating the marketing intensive last year and kind of adding tiers and adding coaching and adding like ad hoc kind of one-to-one, all these kind of different levels. And I just thought like, that's so interesting. It's not, you don't have to create a new offer every 3 months. You can listen to what people are asking for and you can start, you know, and I mean, your launches have been totally amazing, like every single time, but different every single time. Like the offer is different, right?
Yeah, I've had so much fun doing this whole journey. I mean, it's just, if it's not fun, then why do it? Because it's very difficult to hit the level of, let's say, like Amy Porterfield or someone like that, who has a huge team and millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. that I'm not interested in that level because of the lifestyle you have to live to hit it. But I am having so much fun. I'm making more money than I could make in therapy alone. But mostly I have so much time off and it's so much
Mm,
fun to do the damn thing. So for me, it started with knowing what I wanted, which was time, enough income, but mostly time. And that led me to online therapy. And then I'm a natural sharer like you, which led me into creating the online therapist group because I was like, well, I need to put what I'm learning somewhere. I like to talk about what
right.
I'm doing. Well, I'm going to talk about it here. And lots of people joined the group and people started asking me, like, how do I do what you're doing? And I did lots of free coaching and lots of free, I mean, there's over 100 free training videos in the online therapist group. And then it got to be too much. There were too many people that needed coaching. And I was losing time in my clinical practice doing free coaching. And I thought, this is not smart. So I started
Yeah.
charging for coaching, found that I was saying the same dang thing over and over and over again in coaching, and thought, I'm just going to put this into a course and it will be cheaper for the people buying rather than doing one-on-one coaching. And it will be more fun for me because I'm not repeating the same thing all the time, which led to the first course. And then as a business owner, you're making some decisions from there. I could have expanded in lots of different ways. And I remember there was a choice point. Marissa Lawton helped me so much in the beginning of my entrepreneurial stuff. And I was like, I'm going to start teaching side hustle stuff. And I had just run step by step, maybe twice. And she's like, I think you probably want to stay in your lane. I think you probably want to like hyper niche. You're going to get more sales that way. And I was irritated by what she was telling me. I wanted to play, I wanted to do new things. And I'm so glad that I stuck with online therapy. I did coaching here and there, just one-on-one kind of stuff. What's my jam sessions to help people decide what they're interested in that could be profitable. But mostly I stuck with online therapy. And then what you start to see is that you can serve multiple types of clients. That's one way you can have a business, or you can serve the same client at different levels of development. And that was the model that I ended up following. I'm going to help people who are therapists and they want to build an online therapy practice. Oh, they've graduated and now they need to learn to market to private paid clients. Okay, it's the same person. I'm just
Mm,
hitting them at a different stage in their development. And now we're working with people who are, trying to maximize profit, minimize time in their practice, and start to create a side hustle. So we have a mastermind around that. And then the next step is our new mastermind that's coming out to help people who are already in their side hustle figure out ways to make it more profitable in terms of income, but also in time and impact. So I'm just basically following the same person and thinking like,
yeah.
what do you need now? What do you need now?
What do you
I
need
like to
next?
do right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of, when I started Learn to Love Online Therapy, it was like helping people switch to online therapy in the pandemic. And then at some point, I added in my paperwork as like a module because they wanted to go into private practice. So then I added that in and we did kind of a get it done week. That's part of the, and then I added in this module called ethical business practice, which is the sexiest one, obviously. But it was all about like setting up the business side of your practice. And then eventually I didn't even think of Pod, which is my sort of coaching membership, right? I don't like to think of it as a membership, but it's been going for a couple of years now. And but it wasn't me. It wasn't my idea. It was like one of my lotties, one of my grads from Learn to Love Online Therapy said, I want to do some coaching with you, but I can't afford the one-to-one. Can I split it with a few people? Like, how can I pay you for this time? And so that was how the first group started. And I've still got people from that group who've renewed, because I used to do it for 3 months and 3 months, and then 6 months, and now it's a year. And it's just and it evolves. And obviously those people, I'm not coaching them, I'm not answering the same questions as 2 years ago,
Oh,
so
that
I
makes
have to
sense.
keep learning as well. I got to keep moving, I got to keep I got to keep going, I got to keep learning stuff. I mean, no wonder we keep doing so many courses. I don't know, how many courses have you bought this year?
I don't even know. I mean, I have a bookmark folder on my Chrome bar with, I can't even, it goes, oh my, y'all, it's over 100 easily, not this year, but over 100 period. But I like to learn. I mean, I hear sometimes people who want to build an online business and they're like, I just want to make money, but they're not interested in learning. They're really not interested in teaching or sharing. They just want to, make some easy cash. I think it's really hard to be successful from there. But if you love to learn, you're buying these classes because it's fun for you, and you're working with coaches because you get inspired and you find shortcuts to having to learn it all on your own on YouTube. And that makes sense. It's almost like paying for fun and work at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was in a workshop with Megan Hale a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking, she's doing profit first and talking about allocations and stuff like that, and how much in the investment thing. And I was like, investing in your like masterminds or your group programs or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna need to put that percentage up because I've bought like 3 major programs this year. We're in April, and I've purchased, 1, 2, 3 5-figure course / programs.
Wow.
3
5-figure or 4-figure?
Okay, so 1 5, okay, 2 4. Wait, 2000 and but the 10 was like split over quite a long time. So I would say for this year, 2.5. So okay, maybe it's not quite. So maybe it's like a 2, and a 2,000. But one of them was, to do with the Airtable thing. One of them is a marketing certification to do with like offer creation and copywriting and design. And another one's like online business stuff. So okay, so it's not as bad as I thought, actually, now that we're talking about it, but that's still quite a lot. But I will do all of them. I've got loads of stuff that I won't do, but there is some stuff that I do, and I probably go into them like every week.
Yeah, I feel like if you're not investing in your business and in your mind, it's very difficult to move forward. I mean, I pay a lot for my coach, and
Right.
I feel like I get more out of it. I hope she's not listening. I feel like I get more out of it than I'm paying, even though it's quite costly, because she saves me so much time. I mean, if I had to learn everything that she knows, it would take me 10 years. Whereas if I can go to her and say, okay, I'm thinking about doing this or this, and she can say, well, if you do that, these are going to be the costs. If you do this, these are going to be the costs. Okay, great, cool. I'll make that decision. That's super helpful. One of my coaches the other day said, you guys only have to know 10% of what we know. That's it. You just need 10%. But the reality is I need access to a brain that has all of it, so I can pull out the 10% that I need. It's not like I can, because I don't know what I don't know. So,
That's true.
Go ahead.
I don't even know if I need a brain that has all of it. I just need a brain that knows where to find it.
Yeah.
I just need someone that can save me from Googling stuff and making mistakes, because I've bought many, 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 many things that haven't really helped, and or haven't been what I needed at that point. And because it was a really good sales page, or maybe because the person wasn't selling in integrity and they just wanted to sell to me, or whatever it was. Many, many times that's happened. And now I feel like I'm a better buyer, I've like kind of I'm a better buyer, and that makes me a better like creator as well, I think, because it means I can say to people like, this is a good fit for you right now, or listen, maybe not, but I can recommend these other people. Now I know about so many courses, I can tell you what's good right now. And I think that's what's really fun about planning this mastermind with you, is like, seeing, okay, well, this thing is missing. So let's create that, because that's going to answer when a person comes to us that we imagine, this person that we're imagining supporting and helping, when they come to us and say, what have you got for me? We're going to be able to say, yes, this is a good offer for you, you know? But if it's not,
Yes.
then here are some other options, you know?
Right. I feel like that's one of your superpowers is you just know where all the resources are. You know, I don't have that brain. My brain doesn't think that way. So, you know, when we're in my mastermind and somebody has a question, I know immediately that's a Tamara question. I'm not going to know the answer to that. Tamara's going to know, you know, she's going to know who offers that kind of thing. If they have courses, memberships, or whatever, she's going to know the conversion rates you need to make that offer profitable. She's going to know all those. And yeah, that's a
Or
reason
where
I'm
to
super
find them
excited.
out, or where to find them out, you know, like sometimes it's just knowing where to look for that kind of information. And sometimes that's actually kind of more helpful than knowing the answer, is like knowing where to send, you know, knowing where to
Yeah,
send
especially because
people.
everything evolves so quickly. So, you know, memorizing some answer to a question isn't going to be helpful. It's going to change in 6 months, just like what Chat GPT does has changed in, you know, 6 weeks. It's taken a big
In
shift.
like a week.
Oh,
Have you seen the AI pictures that I did? Have you seen them? I have to
yes,
send them to
they're
you.
gorgeous. It's
Yeah,
so
but they're not
weird though.
me. They're not me. It's so weird. It is weird. I think that's a really good point. Is also knowing what we don't know,
Mhm.
you know? And there's loads of stuff. Like I know less than zero about Facebook ads, which I think is quite unusual for somebody who's like so excited about online business and stuff. I think I'm kind of unusual in that respect. And it's not because I'm anti them. I just like don't have any use for them. And so it's just not for me. And I don't know anything about them. And I don't know anything about LinkedIn. Like sometimes I don't even know where to find the box to post on LinkedIn. Like I know that sounds so basic, but like sometimes I'm clicking and I'm like, am I on my profile, or am I posting, or am I on someone else? Like, what is even going on here? So I think also just knowing what we don't know is sometimes also really helpful. Yeah.
Check in with you about this because I've never thought this through. Have we both built multi six figure a year businesses without ads?
Yeah. I've never paid for an ad. Yeah.
That's unusual. That's really unusual. But
I think
I used ads briefly before they kicked me off for breaking a rule. So it's all been, I don't know the rule that I broke, but they've never let me back in. It's all been organic for both of us.
right. Well, I think I don't have anything against ads. And I think if you've got a great tripwire, you've got a great ad, you know, whatever. I just don't know how to do it. And I'm not like invested, you know, in that. And I think that's important for people to know about me. So I have people in my mastermind, and like literally on the checkout page, it says, I don't know anything about ads. I know who to send you to, but that isn't going to be my area. You know, that's not going to be. So nobody joins me who wants to learn about that from me. They learn about it from, you know, they learn about it from someone else. But yeah, I think organic marketing, I mean, if you think about what we teach about marketing private practice, it kind of makes sense that we would build our online businesses that way as well, because we're both really invested in organic, direct relationship marketing.
So
Yeah.
and you don't have to agree with this, just
Okay.
because Tamara thinks it. I have pretty strong feelings about two things. Ads. I think that we are marketed to in such a way to make us believe that ads are the way to have a successful online business. And many people are investing in ads way too early in their businesses before they really come to understand their audience, really come to understand their pain points, how their offer addresses those pain points, their copy's not on point. You know, they don't have all of the pieces that you need to have, and you can only get through running the business for a while. And I could be wrong, but this is my belief. And so you pay all this money in ads and they're not working for you, or they're attracting the wrong audience. You're getting clicks, but it's not the people who are going to buy your product. So for me, and I probably will run ads one day, but I'm going to make sure that I've got all my offers in order, that I know my audience inside and out for each of my offers, that I have sales funnels for each of my offers that are working really effectively with my warm audience that I already have, and then adjust them for a cold audience that I would get through ads and experiment with that. So one day, but I don't need it right now. And I think I could probably run successful ads for step by step, because I know them so well and I've been doing it for a really long time. But the other offers, I don't think that they would make the profit they would need to make to cover the cost of the ads at this point. And it's also not worth it at this point. And I feel the same way about freaking SEO. I think we get sold on this myth. And this is interesting because we share this too. We get sold on this myth that you need to pay $500 or $1,000 a month for somebody to do your SEO so that you can sell your therapy practice or sell your side hustle or whatever. I disagree. I think that, SEO has some benefits, and I know how to do what I call baby SEO, and that's working just fine. It's working just fine. And I don't know how much more money I could make by paying $500 or $1,000 a month for somebody to SEOify my website beyond what it already is.
I mean, I paid someone to do my SEO and he disappeared, and didn't cancel the payments, and I had to chase the bank for them. And, so I don't know. Like, some of this stuff I feel like is in my future, and I will learn about it when I get to, when I feel like I've, given enough focus and time and attention to my priorities, and maybe I'm leaving money on the table because I'm not running ads and I don't care that much about SEO. Maybe I'm leaving money on the table because I don't have any public social media at all, that I don't have a strategy for that. And it's not that I don't think about it. It's not that I'm not thoughtful. And it's not that I'm not consistent in my intentions and values. It's just that, I do things that I feel are important for right now. And maybe that stuff is in my future. I don't know. Someone might be listening to us and just going oh, these two, honestly, and there's people in my
that you do have a public facing strategy, even if it's not even if you didn't strategize it ahead of time, you get in front of people's audiences and you're helpful all the time. So you are expanding your reach just by being helpful out loud with other people's audiences. So that is your top of the funnel kind of strategy, even if you're not intentionally how am I going to get people in my funnel? Even bundle was a huge top of the funnel, bring new people into your list strategy, whether you intended it to be that or not.
No, for sure. And I do but I think I'm much more interested in collaboration. Basically, I'm much more interested in collaboration and relationship kind of building and stuff. That's just where I'm at the moment. Maybe I don't know, maybe ads, maybe all that stuff is in my future, and I'll figure it out, and maybe I'll do ads for a bundle sometime even. I don't know. I sort of think, I don't think any of my offers would do very well with ads, but maybe a bundle would. I don't know. If I had a really good ad and I had a really good audience, kind of, however they do that thing, then maybe, but I kind of, I'm kind of all right with how it is. So I think that's also important, is what's knowing exactly what your intention is, and the idea is not that I kind of burn out trying too many things and trying to do, maybe, there are lots of people who do ads right from the beginning, there are lots of people who do it that way and they're perfectly successful. That's just not everybody's path.
You're so much more diplomatic than I am. Here's what I think about ads. I think that it's almost like a moonshot, like
Mm.
it, if you're really lucky, doing ads right from the get-go can make you so much money without a whole lot of work, if you've got that moonshot. But a vast majority of people aren't going to be able to get the messaging right, the graphic right, the algorithm right, the targeting right, all the things right, unless they really, really, really know their people, which they don't get to do until they've been in business for a while. That's my feeling on it. But I do
And
think, go ahead.
and learned copywriting
Right. And learn
and
copy.
design.
Really good copy. I love
Right.
copywriting. Messaging is like
Sorry.
my favorite.
Sorry, I
I love
interrupted, because it doesn't matter how well you know your audience if you can't do, if you don't do any, if you don't have good copy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be helpful as a last kind of segment of this meeting to talk about where you see your business going. I'm going to start where you see your business going in the next year and maybe thereafter, since we're kind of alluding to that right now. You're like,
Wow.
so I know for me, I don't know if you and I have talked about this year is definitely about building out my sales funnels. And by sales funnels, if you're kind of newer, I mean, right now, all of my sales come from my Facebook group, almost all of my leads come from my Facebook group. That's a very dangerous way to run a business. So I am but expanding into YouTube so that I have at least one other place that I'm bringing people into my world. And then I'm also getting on lots of podcasts and other people's stuff as another way to bring people into my world. Yeah, bundles. So expanding my top of the funnel is part of it. And then once I get all these new people in, I've got to send them somewhere. So I need email sequences that send them to the place that's the right place for them to buy whatever product is the right fit for them. So it's a whole lot of back end work to make all of those email sales funnels and front end work to get out on YouTube and create content, and to get into other people's podcasts and create content and all of that good stuff. So that's my kind of short term plan. And then longer term, another way that I'd like to bring older leads into my world is through blogs that are SEO-fied. I think that's probably, I don't have time this year. So maybe the following year or the year after that. And maybe ads at that point. I need to have my sales funnels dialed in. I think this year will be the year of creating, next year, the year of experimenting and tweaking, and maybe the following year, if Facebook will let me back into ads, maybe then.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that sounds really cool. So you kind of know where you're going to get people, you know what you're going to be offering them, so you can plan out your life around that, or that is planned actually around your life, actually. Right.
Yes, that's right.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. I remember a couple of years ago when you did a planning session with us in Momentum, or maybe it wasn't in Momentum, I can't remember, but you did a planning session and we all wrote down, you asked us questions. You didn't sort of ask us questions about like profit or fees or things like that. You asked us things like, how many hours on Zoom do you want to do a month? What days do you want to be doing that? What are the other things that you want to do every single day? And I don't know what book it's in of my like 50 notebooks, but I remember writing it just in the bottom corner. And I think I remember writing like something like maximum 10 calls per month or something like that, as in group hosting, me hosting group calls. And I'm doing 6. So I have like 3 groups. I have 6. So I've got room for 4 more.
Do you want to do 4 more, or are you happy at 6?
I'm happy to do 3 more, which would fit very nicely if there was someone to build a mastermind with, where there were 4 calls in a month and we each did 3 and 2 of them together. And if there was somehow some sort of perfect way of doing that, so that I only did the live calls on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, which is what I wrote down in that little notebook.
That's wild. That's
No,
wild.
but that's fully like, so I've got my 3 groups and all the calls are on a Tuesday or a Thursday. I've got 2 a month on a Tuesday and I've got 4 on a Thursday. So yeah.
Hashtag goals. That's awesome. Yep.
Isn't that amazing when you write it down and you really like it's sometimes I think about those things as like, I mean, we were talking about this a bit earlier. It's not so much like choosing what you're going to be doing. It's like identifying what you're going to be doing and writing it down, you know,
Yes.
like you're moving towards something and just like defining it, right?
Yeah.
So there's just a little bit of wiggle room for that in my business at the moment.
Amazing.
If you know anyone who happens to be free and wants to help a bunch of people and talk about online business, that would be so fun.
I love that you started with the lifestyle. I mean, that just makes my little lifestyle
Very
heart
Amber.
It's
very Amber.
Yeah. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. And that's even, as I think about all of the things that I just said are the next steps, all of them are chosen because they build towards more and more of that lifestyle. Right now, I have a business I'm so happy with, but it makes money like twice a year. And that's an overstatement. But in general, most of my income comes from 2 live launches a year. Well, that's a little heavy. If one of them doesn't go well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So all of the things that I'm doing are about creating recurring revenue so that that's my primary source of income. And the 2 launches are all gravy income on top of that. So, and that's all about staying free and being able to have the lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I mean free time to lay in a hammock and read a book or, go on adventures.
Absolutely. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because a few years ago, it was like, I just wanted to have a good launch. I just wanted to have like a good, and that would kind of tide me over. And I didn't really understand about the value of recurring revenue and the stability and the peace of mind that gives. And I only really started to understand that last year. And so, the intention is to earn enough recurring revenue so that the bundles and the mini launches and the other things and whatever is like extra, but not the thing that I depend on. And that's what I really, that's why I love having the sort of group program / membership hybrid situation, because I can project, I'm very spreadsheety. I can project income, and then that helps me decide my efforts with launches and creation and bundles and things like that. Like I wanted to do a bundle in March this year. We're in April. I haven't done it. Hopefully I'll do it in June, but who knows?
Right. And you have the freedom to follow whatever your flow happens to be.
Exactly. We've got to have flexibility around that stuff. So I think I'd love to help people with that aspect, specifically with like the things that we learn about building more flexibility into like, how do we make this a full-time thing? Or like, how do we make this our main project, but not overwhelming in terms of how much time it takes up,
How to keep it fun and enlivening and not heavy and exhausting.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were the one that told me about time tracking, and I did a strategy session with someone a few years ago, and it taught me to kind of map out my quarters and you were the one that said like track your time, figure out the profitability of each thing, figure out a checklist on how you decide what you're going to do next. Everyone's got ideas. You got to figure out what works with your life. So thank you.
It's still wild to see how our relationship has evolved. And I mean, it's just it's so nice to get to work with you. And I know I don't want to get sappy because I'll get tearful because I'm at that stage of my life where this will make me tearful. So I'm going to switch gears to to this, and then we'll wrap. Have you noticed, so as we're talking about lifestyle, and I think I learned about this from Megan Hale, she talks a lot about containers and, making sure that you are protecting your energy. And so something I noticed about when I sell one of my courses, they're time bound. They're 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And I can go all in with my energy because it's time bound. And I don't, because it's a course, I'm also not having to, I'm outputting energy, but I'm not holding everyone's energy in the course. I'm not having to learn every detail about their business. I'm teaching things to them. They're taking it in. Whereas, and maybe you can make this clearer, whereas when I'm coaching, like with Momentum or in our mastermind, I can't do that with a lot of people. It's not like a course where I'm just teaching information and I'm holding your hands and answering some questions. With coaching, I have to hold that business in my head, almost like therapy. I'm like holding that person's life experience with me. So I can't be seeing 40 people a week because I'm carrying that with me in some ways. And I think about, Morgan or you or Andrea or Carol outside of our meeting times. And I'm thinking about those businesses and I'm listening to podcasts. I'm like, oh, that would really help with so-and-so's launch strategy. So there's only so many people I can do that with and still be functional human. So sometimes my offers end up morphing around that kind of thinking, like, all right, so a course I can do for a limited period of time, and that helps me hold the container around the energy that will take for me. With something that's ongoing, like a mastermind, the way that I create the container is by the number of people. I can hold these businesses in my head, but I have to have this number of people. Is there anything about that that like comes to mind, either like overtly for you or even more intuitively as you think about your offers? Like, for example, the bundle, I could never in a million years have held that many contributors in my mind to be able to help them figure out how to do and participate in the bundle.
Yeah, bundle's a really specific thing and it is really interesting, but it's super intense. And sort of by the end of it, I really knew everybody, all the contributors' businesses. I knew, I didn't at the beginning, but by the end of it, I really did. And it was a massive loss, not to, just to kind of work with people for a couple of months and then never, never have any contact ever again, so it was a bit jarring. I contain things in lots of different ways. And I think, sometimes I do that with the pod, with my coaching membership. I do that, by people pay for the year or they pay for the 6 months, and then I repitch, I rework my offer, I figure out what I'm going to be able to offer them, and then I figure out what I can, what the price needs to be. So the price has gone up every time, because that's what I needed to do with the pricing. And I think that's quite unusual around, memberships, but it's essentially I create a whole new offer every time and people renew. And
Yeah.
so that's what kind of one way. I am a bit commitment phobic. So I do have difficulty around the idea of something being ongoing. And, so I do ideas of, even if it's not an actual end to something, I do like ideas of in this 6-month chunk or in this 12, I particularly like 1 year commitments.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly like that because that's 4 quarters and I can do 4 projects, or I can do, kind of 3 projects in here and 1 in here and 1 really big one here. And, so I quite like that,
Yes.
as an, just as a kind of rhythm. And I quite like, the kind of anniversaries and the rhythm throughout the year of, the kind of seasons and things like that. And so I quite like a year as a commitment to anything, if I join in something or if I create something. And so that's one of the ways that I contain things. I mean, also I contain price in particular ways. Like everybody who's in a particular program pays the same amount for the same thing, kind of thing. Availability, like when I'm going to be, I will think about things out of hours, but I'm quite strict with myself about like when I'll get back to people. Like I won't answer an email outside of work hours, what I publish as my work hours and things like that. So, you know, I think there are lots of ways of containing things, but one thing I can't contain is like how enthusiastic I get or the ideas that I get. And so I have to work on containing like my delivery of it, because that can feel really overwhelming for someone if I tell them all the information in one go.
Interesting.
So that's kind of something that I work on, is like, what's the important part of what I'm thinking right now that needs to be conveyed?
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Bit of both, Ambi.
Okay. Okay. I get more introverted every year. And I think part of it is that like some of my interpersonal stuff, like my codependency stuff, and having to manage like relationship boundaries around either time or the number of people, because it helps me manage my codependency stuff because I have these
Yeah.
boundaries and these. That's really interesting. And I wonder if you have more room because you're an ambivert. Is that how you say
Yeah,
it?
I don't know. Like, I think socially I'm quite introverted or anxious, depends. And it depends on the situation, basically. But then within like systems where I feel contained and supported, I'm quite extroverted, you know? So and I do feel very like fulfilled by relationships with other people, but I also really need a lot of time alone. And so, you know, kind of bit of both. But I identify with that thing of like just kind of needing some support and guidance around like how to boundary and contain things, you know. So there's the sort of big containers, and then there's like, you know, for example, you're very good at timekeeping. You'll end a call on time. You're very good at that. You're good at winding up. Like I've known for like, you know, 10, 15 minutes that this is coming to an end, right? Right. So you're very good at that. You're good at like cues and kind of wrapping up and like, you know, closing things down and things like that. I think I'm just not very good at that stuff. I'm like, I'll kind of keep it going for a while. So I'm better at it than I used to be. I've been known to go on a call like over an hour extra. And now I think I'm about like 5 minutes extra, I think sometimes.
That makes me hot. That gives me a hot flash. I don't know why. Don't know. I think that there's like the anxious part of
uncontained.
me. Yeah, maybe it's because that's the anxious part of me of like, how do I control the situation? Well, I can at least control the time. And so the socially anxious part of me knows at least I have this. I know the time is contained. That's fascinating.
Two really important things made me make a change to that. One was someone said to me, if I leave now, I'm going to miss an hour of your teaching. So if I go and you haven't ended the class, I could potentially miss an hour of you teaching.
Wow.
So I don't want to go, but I need to go. So that was one thing. And then the other thing that someone said to me was, like, if you keep doing it, everyone will have to do it. And this applies to many things. This applies to like doing loads of stuff for free or giving, you know, the way that you create things or whatever. If you keep doing it, you're setting some sort of standard that everyone's going to have to meet. And so those two things really motivate me to wrap up on time.
Isn't it interesting that it was taking care of other people that motivated you to wrap up on the time, as opposed to taking care of your own time, energy?
Yes.
This is the stuff that I love making part of businessy conversations, because I really feel like we should be working with our psychology in how we run our business and our values and how we run a business. And this is just a perfect, you know, even setting up your offers. And we're talking about, how do we set up offers? How do we determine price points? Where do we set boundaries? And how does that work with our psychology? Freaking, I love it. Thank you so much for all this time and hanging
Thanks
out.
so much. Thanks. I feel like this is like 17 episodes.
I know. And you know me. So Tamara is so like, I don't know if this is fair. I just think of you as so smart and intentional. And I feel like I'm kind of impulsive. So you just said this is 17. And I'm like, oh, I was going to put it on YouTube right now. That was one. And totally,
I mean,
was
it
put
is
on YouTube.
one. It is one. What I mean to say is I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, and I've learned a lot about you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we will be strategic after we're impulsive. I'm probably going to upload this to YouTube now and share it into the Facebook group now, but we will repurpose it and probably in 17 different ways.
Okay, great. Let's go. You know what we should do? We should go through the notes and see what we covered today. And then next time we can cover the other stuff that you wrote.
Yeah, I don't know that we got past question 2 on the
I
stuff
think it was
that
question 2. I think it's like we did question 1 and question, and only because I can see it behind the Zoom screen, I could just see like a bit of it. So I think we did 1 and 2. So you have some great ideas and we can come back to them next time.
Yeah, or we could just answer you guys' questions. I was going to say the viewers, and that sounds so weird. So put in the chat what you would like to hear more about, and maybe we'll talk about those things. We're not committing. We're not committing to that, but we might choose to. Bye, friends. Have a lovely day. Bye.